President Barack Obama has made his first television ad of this campaign season, and here it is.
Michigan, this is Barack Obama. I want to talk with you about the Elissa Slotkin I know. Elissa is a true public servant who has dedicated her career to serving the American people, no matter who is in the White House. I saw that leadership and character up close. In the Situation Room, Elissa delivered national security briefings on some of the toughest issues we were dealing with. That's why I sent Elissa to negotiate on my behalf, because she understood when to compromise and when to stand firm. And it's why I nominated her to be an Assistant Secretary of Defense. Elissa is the kind of leader we need: tough, independent, and effective. She'll get the job done, and she will make you proud.
I'm Elissa Slotkin, and I approve this message.
Elissa Slotkin is running against Republican candidate Mike Rogers for Michigan's open Senate seat. Mike Rogers is facing questions about where he actually lives and if he broke the law by voting at an address that is currently under construction. In a campaign debate Tuesday, Congresswoman Slotkin said this.
I did not support overturning Roe v. Wade, and if a bill came in front of the U.S. Senate to codify Roe, I would vote for it. But I think this is a really important distinction between the two of us. Mike Rogers was 20 years as a legislator. He voted for every single ban, every restriction, every bill that came across his desk to make it harder for a woman and to ban, in some cases, a woman and her right to choose. 56 times in total. We checked the math. To me, every single time he was casting one of those votes, he was saying something very particular. He was saying to women, he does not trust you to make your own decisions about your own family planning every single time. When it comes to our rights and protecting ourselves, I think it is important that we have someone in the seat who does that. He voted and sponsored bills that would make it impossible to have IVF and contraception. If he does not trust us to protect our own rights, do not trust him.
Joining us now is Democratic Representative Elissa Slotkin of Michigan. She is running for Senate in Michigan. It must be quite an honor to have President Obama do his very first campaign commercial of the season for your campaign. It also seems to underline how important Democratic control of the Senate will be.
Yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, it was, my honor to work for him. I actually was there the first day that he walked in. I had worked for George Bush in the White House. And so I was one of a handful that were kept on and had the opportunity to work for him. And we were really excited that he was willing to do that. And it means a lot to me.
The issue of abortion and women's freedom to make their own decisions about their own bodies in Michigan seems to be as stark as it could be in this Senate campaign. You're a supporter of Roe versus Wade. Your opponent, as you said, has voted for all sorts of bans over the years.
Yeah, I think there's this thing going on right now across the country with a lot of Republican candidates where they sort of, they literally stick their finger in the wind and see which way it's blowing and see that, a lot of people don't seem to like when we, take away women's rights. So I'm going to recraft, rebrand, forget about the past, ignore my history, and just convince you that I'm going to be the protector of women. And I mean, if you believe these folks, I have a bridge I want to sell you. It's just not realistic. And past behavior is the best indicator of future behavior. And they tell you who they are when they have the job. And in my case, there was a man who had 20 years as a politician. So we have his votes. They're public. So I just don't think we can let them get away with this idea of just going 180, rebranding, and we have to call them on their records.
We have seen the freedom to choose be a decisive issue in several states since Roe versus Wade was overturned. Is it the number one issue in this Senate campaign, or if not, what is, and what are the top two or three issues?
Yeah, I think no matter what, no matter who you're talking to in Michigan, the economy, inflation, the future of work is definitely the number one issue. If you're a student and you're trying to figure out how to pay your bills, if you're ever going to be able to buy a home one day, middle-aged parents trying to buy that next home, not being able to afford it, seniors seeing their Social Security checks go not as far as they'd like them to. So that's for sure the number one. But I think, most people understand that while they're pocketbook voters at heart, they just don't like the idea that we're going back on our rights. Americans are used to getting more and more rights, not having them taken away. And, that goes for people who, maybe are Republican their whole lives and pro-life their whole lives. I had a guy come up to me in the airport and he said, I just wanted to shake your hand. I'm a lifelong Republican, but, I got 3 daughters. And I said, I know. And he's like, and those guys are so a mess. I don't know what right they'll take away next. I said, I know. So that to me is what it's about. It's not, the economy is definitely number one, but the issue of abortion is still very live because the other side of the aisle hasn't stopped going after it. I mean, not at all. And then number two, it reflects a much bigger story, which is that in the chaos and in sort of that political only mentality, you could lose more rights by these guys just wanting to show off to their base. So it's still a very live issue, but the economy for sure is number one.